This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, that's the NNPC, has admitted to a significant debt burden which, quote, poses a threat to the sustainability of fuel supply. Though the company did not specify the amount owed, for weeks now, the NNPC had denied several reports of a $6.8 billion debt owed to international marketers. Industry experts generally accept that this is the reason behind the fuel queues across the country, where petrol has been selling for as high as 1,000 naira a litre. Joining us for more on this morning is oil and gas expert Ayodele Oni. Good morning and welcome to the conversation, Mr. Oni.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
So as of late last night, the NNPC put out a statement and it seems like they can't deny the truth any longer. Let's talk about the $6.8 billion. Is it realistic that this is the figure that is owed?
Yeah, of course it's realistic. If you recall that we've been doing a lot of forward sale arrangements. There was a 3.3. There's been a number of those. You have that. You also at times have credit sales. But I think that at times the price isn't completely accurate. I think in this case it's probably more around the forward sale agreements. So it's realistic that they have such debts, unfortunately so. Now what they then do is make forward sale of crude that's not even been produced. So you will borrow money on the back of future production.
So, Mr. Oni, the NNPC actually announced a 3.3 trillion naira profit fairly recently. How does that balance, or how does that fit into this conversation that we are having now regarding a huge debt?
Okay. You know, accountants, economists can always play around with figures. So you probably see a lot of that too. In my own view, it will be playing around with figures. Well, that's what I think. That profitability will just largely be numbers. So you can't make profit but still have debts, right? It's the way you provision it or cater to it in your books.
The company says that, look, this debt is going to, or it poses a threat to the sustainability of fuel supply. These were the words that were used. And it's a very brief statement that doesn't really tell us how they intend to get around this threat. They just say that they are pledging to maintain a consistent supply of petroleum products nationwide. Does this mean that we should still continue to see queues? Because supply does not mean ample supply or adequate supply.
Okay, you know that it's not it shouldn't be, if we implement the PIA as we should, it shouldn't be the NNPC or the NNPC alone supplying fuel. The supply of last resort, yes, where you've got low demand, and there's a domestic supply obligation for crude producers. Now, if we implement the PIA, then we shouldn't have any problem. But we can't rely on the NNPC alone. 1, 2, we need to ramp up production. So government needs to give consent to all of these transactions for divestment, so that people can invest money into production, into developing fields. You understand? So that we can produce more crude.
You were making a point that the NNPC, by the PIA, shouldn't be the only company that is importing fuel at the moment, PMS. Now, some experts say that as a way of getting out of this situation, the supply situation, that we might turn to Dangote refinery a lot more, or we're going to be more dependent than was initially forecast, say, a few months ago. Do you agree with that estimation?
Yes. So you know that. Are you hearing me?
Yes, it's a bit unclear, but we can hear you a bit.
Okay, I've said that you should have Dangote refining. You should have other refiners refining. It's not only the NNPC. In fact, at some point we should stop importing petroleum products, according to the PIA, unless we have insufficient refining or insufficient production, then we can import, and only refiners are then allowed to import, or traders. So we can't rely on just the Dangote. We expect that the NNPC4 refineries too will be up and running shortly. Those are my thoughts. I expect that that's what should happen, and that's the way to solve our energy security problem, so that we stop seeing queues. Now, the prices may still be very high because that refining, there's a base product which is crude oil. If crude oil is expensive, the petroleum products will still be expensive because you are refining crude oil. So unless they want to start selling in naira and give subsidy, but even if they sell in naira, it still be expensive because it will be the dollar equivalent of the naira equivalent of the dollar price. So I don't think it will solve our, it will solve our, it will reduce our queues. We should no longer have queues, but I don't think it will reduce prices. And I hope I've answered your question because I didn't hear some of it, but I did hear some of it.
Right. So, Mr. Oni, as forward sales seems to have reached their limit, what sort of options do you think are available to clear the debt?
Okay, they've always been creative. Another way they may do it is to go into other alternative arrangements. If they have reserves, new reserves in particular, they can do they can lend on their which is different from forward sale or corporate borrowing, different from project finance or RBLs or forward sales. You could do other means of borrowing, and you can even have arrangements with their joint venture partners, and those ones would be able to pay upfront and then get it back when production gets a particular threshold. There are various means you can raise finance beyond forward sale. It's just that they've used forward sale historically and they continue to use it.
Mr. Oni, thank you very much for your time and expertise on this conversation. Our guest, Ayodele Oni, is an oil and gas expert, and he joined us to speak on the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited admitting to a significant debt burden which they say poses a threat to the sustainability of fuel supply. You're still on to Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. At 7:35 this morning, it will be time for News Extra and all the conversations that follow. Do stay with us.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.